Every day in Pennsylvania, 13 people die from drug abuse. According to the CDC, our state's drug overdose rate is 2 times as high as the national average. Hello, I'm Tiffany Cloud. Welcome to The Storm, and thank you for watching today on WYLN TV 35. This show has always been about solutions. I like to talk with people who don't merely complain, but rather people who do things to make a difference in their lives and in the lives of others. My guest today is doing just that. He's working to quash the stigma of drug addiction and to help more people get into recovery. His personal story is compelling and his work inspiring. Joining me in studio after the break, Corey Mccabe from Alive Today.
The Storm on WYLN TV 35 is sponsored by Atlantic Carbon Group PLC.
Pull it.
There are lots of things you can pull, but what's the most fun? Pulling parts at Harry's You Pull It, the world's largest auto salvage yard.
Pull it. Pull it.
Come visit any of their 3 convenient Harry's You Pull It locations: Hazleton, Allentown, Pennsburg, and Pull It.
I'm Gary Perna, news director and reporter for WYLN News. With a decade of experience in local news, I'm proud to be part of the #1 local news team, WYLN News. When local news happens, you can count on WYLN News to be there. Whether it's in Mccabe, Harrisburg, or right here in Hazleton, we've worked hard to be your #1 local news station, and we'll continue to work hard to stay #1.
Make the beer stop your stop for the best selection of beer in the area. Over 450 types of beer, a huge variety of styles to please everyone's tastes. Over 150 microbrews, including hard-to-find beers. Over 100 German and Belgian beers and frozen daiquiris to go. Do you like trying new beers? Make your own 6-pack at the beer stop with a large assortment of single bottles. The beer stop is open until midnight every day, all year long. Make the beer stop your stop. 16 North Broad Street in West Hazleton. Go hog wild for Iron Pigs Baseball. WYLN is televising the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs live. America's favorite pastime on your local network, WYLN TV 35. See the Stars of Tomorrow at Coca-Cola Park. Don't miss any of the games here on WYLN TV 35. Visit WYLNTV.com for a complete Iron Pigs schedule. Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs on WYLN, your home for live sports.
Welcome back to The Storm. I am joined today by Corey Mccabe from Alive Today. I'm so inspired by the work that he's been doing in our communities, in our region, and I really think that you all are going to enjoy today's show. Corey, thank you so much for joining me here on The Storm.
Thanks for having me.
I am happy to have you. Your story is so inspiring, and I'd really like to start with you sharing a bit about that story.
Okay. Well, I'm a person in recovery. What that means to me is I haven't used any drugs or alcohol since October 14, 2017. I struggled for many, many years with drugs and alcohol. Been incarcerated, been through many different drug and alcohol treatment centers. And finally, October of 17, I got things on track. So, I felt like I needed to do more, and give back and help other people that have struggled the way I've struggled. And, I just felt like God, put a call on my life. And then recently, last April, actually, we launched Alive Today.
You launched Alive Today, which is an organization doing such great work, and we're going to talk a lot about the kind of work you're doing. You said you got your life on track, you got things on track. How did you go about doing that? Was there a moment that was kind of a light bulb moment? Was it just over a series of time that several things happened? What was it for you?
Well, I think it was over a series of time. I really don't think people, for me, I just got tired of the consequences. Like, I got tired of the pain and the suffering, and things weren't getting any better, and it was the same results over and over again. And I think the turning point with me is my mental health started to deteriorate.
Okay. One of the things that, and you and I have spent a great deal of time together in over the last year and a half. I've attended drug awareness events that you have organized, which have blown my mind, with hundreds and hundreds of people in attendance in Schuylkill County. I've attended forums on opioid addiction that you've been a huge part of, and I'm always impressed by you. I want to talk first about the stigma, because step one in communities really understanding about addiction and understanding about how to help people and support those working to overcome it is to quash the stigma.
Correct.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about, those who suffer from addiction aren't all cookie cutter kind of people.
Correct.
And they're maybe not what people envision they are. So let's talk about that.
Well, stigma is, in my opinion, is the number one thing that holds us back. We're getting better because 2 in 3 families are affected by substance use disorder. People that suffer from substance use disorder are often a marginalized group of people. And it really comes down to people just being uneducated, and then people just refusing to acknowledge it for what it is, and it's a disease.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, certainly in the case of opioid addiction, for example, a lot of times it's just someone who injures their back. Mm-hmm. It could be a white collar professional. It could be a blue collar laborer. There is no socioeconomic
Correct.
bound in that addiction.
Correct, and that's the problem. We've always been, going back to the 80s and the 90s. America's been in the midst of a drug epidemic, mm-hmm. And that's what it really is. There's so much focus on opioids because the amount of deaths that's taking place as it relates to opiates, and Big Pharma's a big part of that. They orchestrated the OxyContin phenomenon, and lied, but they're not solely responsible for it. But that really is what kind of brought us into the opioid epidemic.
Mm-hmm. As well as, unfortunately, there are plenty of doctors out there who were over-prescribing medication. Instead of giving a week's worth of pills, people were getting 100 pills.
Correct.
And also, a lot of people weren't disposing, and still aren't disposing
Right.
of their medication
Right.
properly. And maybe a grandma, a grandpa that's keeping medications in their cupboard, and their grandkid comes over and snags it.
That's a key, very big point that you just mentioned, because that's how a lot of young people get started. Mm-hmm. Their parents or their grandparents, have leftover prescriptions that are left in the medicine cabinet, or laying on the dining room table, and they're 13, 14 years old, and they just start experimenting. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a big issue. That's why there's a big push for drug take-backs. Local police departments, local pharmacies, different events have drug take-back boxes that the sheriff's department monitors. So yeah, that's important. That's
mm-hmm.
very important.
I'd like to have you share a bit about some of the specific work that Alive Today has done since its formation, because you're doing, as I said, some phenomenal things, certainly in Schuylkill County, and I think there's a lot. Our viewing audience in Luzerne County, and we're out in Columbia, and we're watched by people in Carbon and other places. They can learn from your efforts.
What we primarily do is we streamline the process and help people get into treatment quicker than calling a typical 800 number. But we advocate on behalf of things that need to change. We're heavily involved in legislation. We really communicate well with the district attorney, local legislators, and that's really what what we really try to do. That's our part, in this, as well as education. We do community events, as you're aware of. I go and I speak in schools. We attack it from all angles. Just last December we had Schuylkill County's first senior opioid symposium, because the elderly is often known as the forgotten people in this epidemic, mm-hmm. and that actually has been the largest increase in deaths of people between the age of 54 and 65. We've seen the largest increase in overdose deaths in that age group. So
really?
In December, we educated the public. We had a symposium at a Rosewood facility in Schuylkill Haven. It was the first of its kind. So we just try to attack it from all angles, young, old, no matter what ethnic background people are affected by that, and we just want to educate people. We believe in being proactive, but we also need to be reactive as well.
And I have to say, before we go to break, I'm really excited that you came up recently to Greater Hazleton. There are a group of us in the Greater Hazleton area, legislators, community leaders, just concerned citizens, all sorts of people. We're getting together. The standard speaker is spearheading it, and there's going to be a series of town halls happening very soon in our communities. I'm so glad that you've come and you've brought your expertise to these meetings so that we can make sure this series of town halls is extremely educational and importantly effective. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And with that, we're going to take our first break. We'll be right back on The Storm.
The Storm on WYLN TV 35 is sponsored by Atlantic Carbon Group PLC.
All Care Home Care, providing quality in home care since 1986. Call and see how their team of licensed physical therapists, skilled nurses, speech, and occupational therapists can provide you with exceptional service in the comfort of your own home. They also offer dietitian, home health aide, and medical social worker services. You have a choice in your health care. For safe, friendly, qualified care, call All Care Home Care today and let their team begin taking care of you and your loved ones.
Do you like craft beer? Do you want to learn the right way to sample wine? How about visiting a restaurant that has a unique flavor? These are just some of the things we'll be featuring on our show. Wine, Hops, and Road Stops. Jeff Bonomo and his co-host, Alan Giannetti, welcome you into the world of craft beer, great wine, and good food. Wine, Hops, and Road Stops.
If you or a loved one has mesothelioma or been diagnosed with another asbestos-related cancer, call now. An estimated $30 billion in court-ordered trusts have been set aside to pay out claims to asbestos victims. You may be able to receive compensation without ever going to court or filing a lawsuit. Thousands of hardworking
National Weather Service office in Binghamton, New York. The tones you just heard were a test of the specific area message encoding and tone alert systems. During dangerous weather events, NOAA weather radio receivers can be activated by these systems. A message with information about a watch or warning would follow. Tests of these systems are normally conducted by the National Weather Service between 11 a.m. and noon each Wednesday. If there is a threat of severe weather, the test may be postponed until the next good weather day. Repeating, this was a test of the specific area message encoding and tone alert systems.
Fact that one of the things your organization does is you meet with legislators. Tell us a bit about what your priorities are, what you need more of, or what you need them to do.
Okay. One of the biggest things is obviously we need to create more beds. We need more treatment beds available.
Okay.
Another thing is we would like it to be mandatory that people that survive overdoses that whether it's through the police, the EMS, or local hospitals, that they get a mandatory treatment referral. So they're reaching out to local drug and alcohol outpatient facilities or certified recovery specialists and make that mandatory so we can come in and engage people and try to get them into treatment.
Okay.
So that's a big one.
I want to tackle that second one first. I want to talk about both of them a little bit. The second one of the things for those who maybe don't understand, if somebody has an overdose and they go to the hospital, there are plenty of hospitals out there that once they get them stabilized, they just send them off on their merry little way.
Right.
What you're trying to do is get more of the warm handoffs mandated in hospitals so that when they go to these hospitals, they there in the ER, et cetera, they have to work to help these people get into a place.
We would like it to be mandatory, that a hospital has to do a mandatory referral, that anybody in there from a suspected drug overdose, it needs to be mandatory. It needs to be law.
Because the reality is, you know this, what's going to happen if they're let out, they're going to go right back to using, and they're going to be right back in that hospital again the next day, or God forbid they're going to overdose and not even make it to the hospital, and they're going to end up being a statistic. And so we have everything to gain by helping folks get into a recovery facility.
And the common argument in that is that, well, nobody will go. Well, if we engage 10 people and we get 2 to go, that's 2 people that we've engaged in the treatment. So it's only going to benefit us. We need to do something, immediately to stop this.
When you talked, the first thing you said also you're talking to legislators about was the need for beds. And I know you've shared some information with me in past, and it is stunning how few beds there are available for people that want to get into recovery in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Well, one of the things that prevents existing treatment facilities is licensing. So in order for a rehab that has 100 beds to expand to 150 beds, they can't just decide overnight and remodel the facilities and accept 50 more people. They have to go through licensing and get approval through the Department of Health, Department of Drug and Alcohol. So there's a lot of red tape involved that existing treatment centers have the ability to expand, but it's just a slow, long process.
Well, and I also did some reading like a year ago about the fact that there are very few facilities also for young people, for really young people to get into. There's like 1 or 2, if that. And that's sad as well. I mean, it's different for adults to get in, but what if you're a 13-year-old with a problem?
Right. As far as I'm aware, there are a few private adolescent treatment facilities, but as far as facilities that accept medical assistance, for example, I'm only aware of one facility. While treatment facilities for young people, they're closing. Actually, we should be opening more, and they're actually closing. So that poses a huge problem.
And sadly, so many people are afraid to have a treatment facility in their community.
That's enough, especially a recovery center or a halfway house. Nobody wants it next door to them or in a suburban residential area. But we need to do something. We need to loosen regulations when it comes to things like that. Like I say, the numbers are staggering.
We have an epidemic.
Yeah, over 72,000 Americans died last year in 1 year as a result of drug and alcohol overdoses. So we have to do something.
And just 2 years prior to that, it was 10,000 less people dying. Still a staggering number. And obviously, this has reached, even the President of the United States has recognized that this is a problem. He does have a position out on this and a plan for this, which is good. But there's still, recognition is the first step. Working on solutions is certainly where we need to get, and it sounds like there are some things that need to be implemented.
Yes,
right away.
He passed, President Trump passed a huge bill last year. H.R. 6 is the largest bill that's ever been passed in U.S. history to combat the drug epidemic. The problem is funding's really not an issue. Usually everybody says, well, we don't have the funding. Well, the funding's available. We're just not using it the right way.
Okay.
And one other thing is, it's a proven fact that if we get people to 5 years of recovery. The recovery rate is 85%. So how do we get people to 5 years? We support them in all aspects of life, not just drug and alcohol, but transportation, education, housing, jobs. We need to provide resources for an individual that does come out of treatment after 28 days, transition them into a halfway house, then transition them into a recovery house, and all along the way, supporting them, helping them get an employment, education, whatever it is that they need, because most often than not, people that are coming out of treatment, they've already lost everything. So they're literally starting over. So, and when we do that, when we support people in those aspects, like I said, when we get people to 5 years, the recovery rate is 85%. And not only that, is for every $1 invested in treatment, it's a $7 return.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a no-brainer.
Different people get through things in different ways. And is there any one particular path that you have found is the best way for a person to say, I need to make a change? Or is it just, sorry, this path works for this person, this path works for that person? I mean, I'm a bit curious about the recovery process and what is most effective. Because I hear about 12-step programs, et cetera, and your belief in higher power is often something that people say is incredibly helpful. So I'd just like to hear from you, having been through this.
Alive Today, we support all pathways to recovery. So whatever it is, whether it's AA, NA, whether it's MAT, which is medically assisted treatment, we support all harm reduction initiatives. Whatever your path is, we're going to support you. And what I mean by that, if picking rocks helps you stay sober, we're going to find 10 places for you to pick the best rocks.
The best rocks.
So whatever your path is, because everybody responds differently. And we, for so many years, we put people into a box. You have to go to AA, or you have to go to NA, or you have to do ABC, or you have to do XYZ, and that's not true. Everybody responds differently. We need to be asking people what recovery looks like to them, not what we expect recovery to be for them. So everybody is different. Okay,
and with that, we're going to take another break. We will be right back on The Storm.
The Storm on WYLN TV 35 is sponsored by Atlantic Carbon Group PLC.
It's Hemi from the family at All-American Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Tamaqua. I don't know about you, but these so-called sales advertisements really rough me up. At All-American, we have a no-sale policy every day. That's right, dealer invoice pricing and no hidden rebates that you don't qualify for. So stop in at All-American Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram sales spring event and let me take you for a walk around our lot.
WYLN has strong ties to the community and it's committed to important causes like the American Cancer Society and Helping Hands Society telethons. WYLN's commitment to Pennsylvania continues with the broadcast of Hazelton's Fun Fest Parade and the Christmas and St. Patrick's Day parades in Wilkes-Barre. In the summer, we broadcast the Weatherly and Giants Despair Hill Climb. And throughout the year, we provide important community services through the broadcast of town meetings, school board meetings, election night coverage, and other community events. WYLN, we're your local network.
The Whitetail Preserve Spring Trap Skeet League starts Tuesday, April 16th at 5 p.m. It is open to anyone who is above beginner stage in their skills. You can sign up at Whitetail any weekend leading up to the start date. Remember, the kitchen is open on Tuesdays at 5, so no need to fret over dinner. The cost is $30 to sign up, and this will go towards league maintenance, prizes, and the banquet that will be held June 18th. Remember to follow Whitetail on Facebook, facebook.com/whitetail-preserve.
In a world where an instant tweet can create a firestorm of news coverage, WYLN is moving with the times, allowing for more instant reporting of breaking news on television and on social media, as well as regular hourly news updates. News gets out faster than ever before, and WYLN brings it all to you. Live weekdays at 5:30 only on WYLN. We're your local network.
Welcome back to The Storm. I'm here today with Corey Mccabe from Alive Today. Corey, I'd like to ask you your opinions on medically assisted treatment for people who are struggling with addiction.
I support it. You know, if that's what help somebody, get their life back and give them the ability to recover. I support it. I don't think it's a fix-all. I think there has to be some things attached to it. You don't just take medication twice a day or however many times you're prescribed to take it. You need to be involved in counseling, in therapy. You need to be involved with that as well. So I don't think you just take medication and everything's okay. Has to be some treatment attached to that.
That makes a lot of sense. You have to treat perhaps some of the reasons that you considered doing it in the first place.
Right, some of the behavioral issues.
Right.
The medication helps with cravings, and helps, adjust, the physical aspect, but there's a lot of behavioral aspects that need to be addressed as well.
You were telling me when we went to commercial, you and I had a chat about a syringe exchange program that may be happening in Philadelphia. If you could share a bit about that.
There are some syringe exchange programs across the state. Philadelphia is in talks of opening a safe injection site.
Okay.
So what that is people have the ability to come to the facility, and safely, inject their drugs in a safe environment.
Okay. Okay. What are your thoughts?
I think that, it sounds really taboo. I think, there is a need for it based on this, the data. However, we need to keep in mind we need to be getting people well. The data supports they've had some success in Canada. In different countries, there's never been a recorded overdose death at any one of the facilities. But it's another point of engagement. So it's okay, to have that available. But we need to be having that conversation with people that would come in. We need to transition them into getting help. It's not. We're not enabling them.
Right.
That's the bottom line. Like we don't want to keep people in this position. We want it to be, another point of engagement where we can transition you into treatment.
Corey, I have no doubt that there is someone in our viewing audience today, probably many someones in our viewing audience today, who's currently struggling with addiction and or family members of people who are struggling with addiction. What would be your advice in these closing minutes to them?
There's a lot of help available. You just have to, reach out and ask your local drug and alcohol agency, your outpatient, your Schuylkill County Drug and Alcohol, or your county authority. There's so many different resources available today for people to reach out. You can reach out to us, on Facebook Alive Today, and we will point you in the right direction. And just support people. We need to love people. We need to encourage people. We need to support them, and not belittle them. It's not a shame-based. It's a disease, and just I encourage people to ask for help. Pick up that phone, as hard as it may be. Pick up that phone, go online, reach out to people, ask someone for help, because help is definitely available.
Well, and you are a great testament to the fact that someone who has struggled with addiction, someone can find a path that works for them, right, to help get on the road to recovery and, continue working to stay on recovery.
Yes.
Yes.
I find what works for me is I like to help other people. I like to encourage other people. I never want people to feel how I used to feel when I was out there in an active addiction. When I was in active addiction, I had no choice. Every day I woke up and I had to survive my addiction. I got to a point where I reached out for help. Help was available, and people have guided me and supported me, and my support system is great. My mentor is great, and they support me.
Okay, well, God bless you, Corey Mccabe.
Thank
you are
bless.
an amazing person.
Thank
Alive Today is doing great stuff. You're an inspiration. I'm so excited that people of the greater Hazleton area and our viewing area are getting to know you, and they're going to see more of you in the near future.
Awesome.
And remember, folks, when you look around and you don't like what you see, don't complain about it. You too can do something about it. Thank you for watching.